Hey everyone, Golden Ninja 3000 here again. Today I'm reviewing the 3 buildable Spider-Man action figures that LEGO released in September of 2022. On the right, we have set number 76225 Miles Morales with 238 pieces. On the left, we've got Spider-Man with 258 pieces. That is set number 76226. And then in the middle, we've got 76230 Venom with 297 pieces. All of these guys retail for $25 in the US, and they aren't construction or CCBS style figures. These are fully brick built, and I just think that that's a perfect idea. We got an Iron Man figure in this style in January, and I've really been missing large LEGO action figures like these. All right, so we'll start out by taking a look at Peter Parker. I think that this figure looks pretty good. I like the balance of red and blue across from it. And all of that detail that you see, those are all printed parts, which I think really helps justify the $25 price. Because the Iron Man figure that came out in January, which I believe is a little bit bigger than these, but I haven't done a direct comparison, that one was $40 and had so many stickers. So I'm really glad to see that Peter just has printed pieces. And as you can see, this minifigure is pretty well finished all the way around. There's not really like any anti-studs showing. We've got a few over here, but like the legs are pretty nicely rounded off. And I really appreciate that, but one thing I would have liked to have seen is the spider logo on the back. I feel like there was a place to put, like another printed piece, because it would just make it feel even more finished, although I do like that they've put the red dot there so it at least kind of approximates the logo a little bit. Now, my one major gripe with these figures is with the head, because I just feel like the head is way too angular. It is the same piece developed for that Iron Man figure, and I did not like the piece on the Iron Man figure either, to be honest. But here it just looks so odd. Like, Spider-Man has a very round head, because humans have round heads, and he wears a very like form-fitting mask. So for it to be so angular, it's just really, really odd to me. The rest of the head build looks okay, but I really would have preferred if they had developed a new piece. That being said, it looks better in person, and because all 3 figures are, in the exact same style, you get used to it. I still don't like it though. And then the other major problem I have is that you can see how bad the print job is on the eyes. This is how I got it straight out of the box. It's very thinly printed, first of all, so it's pretty washed out in person. Like, they look a little bit pinker. The light is making them look more white. But in regular lighting conditions, the white looks very pink. And then, yeah, there's so many like dirty marks in these eyes. I love printed Lego pieces. I always want prints over stickers, but I want good prints. I want good quality prints, because prints that are messed up like this, if I put a sticker on this piece, it would be very hard to put a sticker on this piece because of all the shapes. But you know what I mean? Like, if I put a sticker on, then the only way it could be messed up if it was incorrectly cut on the sheet, which has been happening a lot more. But it's harder to mess up like the print on a sticker than it is a print on a piece. And I really don't like that LEGO still can't give us good quality prints. All of the other prints are fine, but again, I think that's just because they're black on red, whereas the issue was with the white eyes on the mask. But I think that they line up pretty well. Like, the spider logo is a little bit off center, but again, from any normal distance, you're not really going to notice it, although it would be nice if they were correctly centered. And then you've got just a little bit of web printing down there as well. And there's a ton of articulation on this figure. So I want to start at the shoulder pads first, because these are a new piece. They look very similar to CCBS ball joints, but they've actually got a little bar. So that's why they're new. I quite like that piece, and you can easily move them up out of the way as you move the arms. So the arms can rotate at the shoulders on all of these figures, and then you've also got a little elbow joint. And I'm really glad to see that, because I think that that just really helps with these figures. Like, I like that there's just a regular elbow instead of a ball joint there. And then, of course, you can rotate the wrists. You've got the little fingers. I don't like these fingers on any kind of like Lego mech, but I think they look okay on this one. And then I do like that the palm is actually like pretty built up. And of course, you can attach a string of webbing there. And then you've got a little red piece on the back. So I think that those hands work pretty well, but they are my least favorite part of the figure besides the head. You've also got waist articulation, which is something that I'm very happy to see, because honestly, I don't even think that this figure needed it. It does rotate like a little bit high, like I'm used to Lego mechs rotating closer to the hips, but again, it's just nice that it can do that at all. And then the legs are pretty well shaped. You've got a bunch of different tiles here, and then again, very angular shapes, but I think that it works down here. because when you move them, it like slots in perfectly with the hip section. And then you do have knees, which is wonderful. Love knees on Lego mechs because this is basically a mech build, even though it's supposed to be a character. And then you can kind of like move these flaps up and down, so that can help kind of bridge the gap as you move the knees. The only issue is that when you get into poses like this, then like that piece starts to look really, really awkward, but it's very helpful when you're in a pose like that. And then, yeah, we've got more printed webbing down here, some pentagonal tiles to finish off the sides of the legs. And then you've got very thin feet. This isn't a build that I've seen on other Lego figures before, and I think that it looks really good because they're slender, but they're well built up. I like that you've got studs on the side instead of it just being completely smoothed over. And I like how sturdy they are because honestly, for something so thin, I didn't think that they would be this good at holding the figures up. The only thing I don't like is the anti-studs on this side. I wish that it was kind of like properly finished off on both sides, or I feel like the anti-studs should be facing inwards. Like I don't like that the studded and detailed areas are facing towards the inside. Miles is pretty much the exact same build, which doesn't really bother me because I think that he looks even better than Peter. I love black and red as a color scheme for anybody, Spider-Man, Batman, like anything. And I just think that Miles looks, you know, a little bit more grown up than Peter, which is funny because he's the younger one. But it just looks like more of a serious action figure and less like toyish. Not that being toyish is bad because these are toys, but I don't know. I just think the color scheme really works. So I love his prints. I think that these are lined up much better than the ones on Peter, but he doesn't get extra webbing down there. Instead, he has this red triangle, which is not the same color as the red pieces, so it doesn't really work, but I see what Lego was going for there. And if that piece was actually, if that print was actually the same color red, I think that that would look excellent. Miles's head is the least messed up out of all of the ones that I got, but you can still see that those eyes are dirty. So I am requesting replacements for all of these heads because that just annoys me, and I don't know if Lego will have better quality ones, but I'm hoping that they do. The head is the exact same build, I think. Yeah, like no differences. The hands have some small differences, just like cosmetic detailing, but other than that, they're the same. He does get the trans blue webbing to represent, I believe he has like shocking or like stinging webs. I'm not super familiar with Miles as a character, mostly just from the Into the Spider-Verse movie, but that's awesome. And then his legs are, again, pretty much the exact same build, but there are some slight differences. I do like the texture on the sides of his thighs here with the studs and with the smoothed over tiles. Same story with the anti-studs facing outwards though. I might just switch the feet around if that really bothers me, but I don't really want to do that because I feel like that would look weird. And then again, he also does not get a spider logo on the back, which is a shame, but I do like that splotch of bright red amongst all the black. And yep, same articulation on the waist and everything. And then we make our way to Venom, which is my favorite of these three by far. I love large Venom action figure style things. Lego gave us a Venom mech a few years ago. I guess it was like 4 years ago now. And that was really, really awesome. And so what I love about this action figure is that you can use this with minifigures and just pretend that it's Venom like grown gigantic, like the symbiote's just grown itself. So that's a big plus. But I just think that this one has a really nice design. It is more mech-like than the other ones because it is so large, which you can really see in the legs. Like the legs are super built up with like car hood pieces and then these like curved pieces. And even though it's the same joints, like the same ratcheting joints, they just feel, you know, like larger because of how big his thighs are. And then you've got the same kind of knee flap thing here. I think that this isn't a great look because they can't bend any further forwards. Like when you're trying to put these figures into like a kicking or a running pose, that can start to look a little bit awkward. But then, you know, when you're bringing it up like this, it works better. And I don't think Peter and Miles have that issue because they have like slightly different builds. So I think that theirs can fold up a little bit more. So yeah, so that's a flaw that's a little bit unique to Venom, but as you can see, the bottom part of his legs are also built up quite nicely. I really like this piece. Like they use this piece a lot across all three of the figures, and I think it just adds a lot of nice detail. And then surprisingly, he's got the same exact foot build. I thought that he would have much bigger feet. I feel like these aren't really awkward, like they work well for the figure, but considering how beefy the rest of the figure is, it's just kind of weird that he has such dainty little feet. Venom gets waist articulation as well, and like I said, he is beefy. His torso is at least like twice as wide as the other guys, I think it looks a little bit awkward because of the pieces that they used. Like the torso doesn't taper as cleanly as Miles and Peter's. But I love his prints. We're going to move his head up out of the way. Look at that. Again, they're a little bit too washed out, and I feel like you can see that a little bit because LEGO just does not print white on black very well at all, even though we know that they can. But I think that like the designs look great. And again, like it's just something you have to live with. It's not, again, LEGO can do better. Like that white should be the same color as the pieces. But if they won't do better, like there's not much we can do about it. So I think it looks okay. Then we do have some arms, pretty much like the same thing as the other guys, just an elbow joint and then a ball and socket joint at the shoulder. I do like these like rounded bricks used on the arms for detail because they slot together really cleanly. And then I love his hands. These are my #1 favorite hand build on any kind of like LEGO creature, like if it's a mech, if it's a dragon. I just really like it when they use the Exoforce arms with the claws because they let you grab things a lot better. Like this guy can actually grab stuff in his hands, and the other figures definitely can't do that. He doesn't have a connection for webbing or anything, which I think is fine. You know, you can build that in yourself if you want to, but I just really, really like the way this guy looks. I think that he was designed very well. He's using like these shoulder pad pieces, which are the same as the face pieces for all 3 of these figures, just unprinted, and I think that that works pretty well. Again, it makes them look a lot larger than the other guys. And then his head is just wonderful. So it's very badly printed again, which is extremely irritating. But what they've done here is they've taken that weirdly angled piece and they've printed teeth on it. And then they've taken another piece, a smaller piece, and printed teeth on it. And then they've made him a little jaw. So this does mean that he'll always have his mouth open, because if you took off the lower jaw, then he would just look like a freaky little monster with like those teeth out. Although I guess Venom is a freaky little monster. But I really love it. I like how hard like LEGO goes on all the tongues with the Venom figures, because I think it adds a lot of like creepiness and personality to them. And this one is no different. You can move it around and you can twist this barb at the end if you want as well. And I feel like I broke it because it's like kind of flopping around now, but I don't know. I'll deal with that later. And then lastly, the thing that makes Venom the best is that he is fully finished around the back, completely finished. They've put tiles there where they didn't really need to. Everything's been smoothed over on his legs. Everything, yep, I knew the tongue broke. Everything has been smoothed over on his back, and then he even has the prints. There are no anti-studs showing. And again, I don't mind some anti-studs, but it's just really nice to get an action figure that is this complete around the back and even around the sides, because as you saw earlier, they did build up white pieces along the sides to kind of bridge the spider logos. It is pretty easy to articulate these figures, thankfully, so you can just like go in and start messing around and you can like get them into a stable position very quickly. That was a bad example, but like, look at that. He's doing a funky dance and it totally works. And I really appreciate that because again, the legs, or I mean the feet, like they might be really small and slender, but they have a good weight to them. So they really allow you to balance the figures, even just like on their toes. So, oh, that looks like he's dabbing. That's kind of funny. But I really like that, especially because Miles and Peter are so skinny next to Venom, which makes sense because they're supposed to be like more slender. But like, can you balance, please? Sorry, lost my train of thought for a second there because I was trying to get him to balance on his toes. But like it really works. And again, like because of that waist articulation, you can kind of shift the center of gravity a little bit. And I don't think this is going to work, but I mean, I tried. Okay, there we go. I got Miles to balance. And again, that only took like a minute. So I'm really pleased with the articulation on these guys, especially after the very poor articulation on some recent Marvel large buildable figures, looking at the I Am Groot set, which was just like so heavy that you can barely move it before the entire thing falls over and breaks. I'm really pleased with like the weight distribution on these and how good everything looks. Like these are pretty much display worthy pieces. I think obviously something like the Iron Man figure is a little bit better, but you could totally put these on a shelf and they would still look really nice. Here are the extra pieces for all 3 sets. It is nice to get so many extra webbing parts because again, you can use those with your own minifigures. Here are the boxes for all 3 sets. I really love the art style on them, and I think that they just show off the builds really well. And here are the backs of the boxes. They just show off different poses for the figures, and honestly, these could be the front of the boxes if they just had like the text information on them. And here are our 3 instruction manuals. Nothing really of note in them except for an ad for all 3 of the sets at the back of each one of these. That was my attempt to get Peter into like his iconic Spider-Man pose. It does not work. His arms are not long enough and his legs are like, they like don't have the right fluidity to their movements. So unfortunately you cannot put him in his iconic pose. That is like the closest you can get. I also tried to balance Miles on one leg, but he can't really do that well. But overall, I love these sets. I think that these are exactly what LEGO should be doing because I think these sets work for kids. They definitely work for kids. I would be thrilled if I had these as like an 8 or a 10-year-old. Like I would be over the moon and I would be taking these everywhere. And I know that because like that's how I feel now. Like I don't play with my LEGO sets a lot anymore, but this is really making me want to. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing with your LEGO sets. So you know what? Maybe I will like smash them amongst each other a little bit. But yeah, I mean, even if you don't play with your LEGO sets, I think that these still look good enough to put on a shelf, especially Venom. Miles and Peter are a little bit more basic if you're an adult collector, but I still think that they're worth buying. But Venom should be a no-brainer for everybody because you can put him into a display with minifigures. You can, you know, have him fight these other action figures, or you can put him on a shelf. Like he works with any like LEGO Marvel user's mindset, basically. The only issue I have is the price. I feel like $25 is a little bit too high for Peter and Miles. I would have preferred if they were $20 sets. But to be fair, these prints go a long way. But also, to be fair, they should have good prints. Like, the head prints are really bad on these sets, which is really disappointing. But it just feels weird to me that Venom is the exact same price as them, even though he's, like, so much larger. Like, you can see that he's taller, he's, like, bulkier. So to me, Venom even could have been a $30 set, so maybe I should be glad that he's not. But yeah, it just kind of feels odd that they're all the same price to me. But I think that these are great sets. I really hope LEGO does more of these. I want Spider-Gwen. I want Green Goblin. I really hope that we see more of these in 2023. So that's it for today. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and check out my website, goldenninja3000.com, and I will see you guys with more videos soon. Bye for now.